Hey friends, welcome to the Plaid X2 channel. My name is John. On this channel, we talk all things physical media, so movies, music, and books. You know that kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe down below for more of that kind of content. Friends, this is a really special, fun video. This is episode number 10 of The Five. Not long ago, I started a series called The Five, where I ask 5 questions to movie collectors in the movie collecting community, and they respond to each of the questions with 5 films. And this has been so fun for me to have these conversations, to learn so much about new films. And so that's been cool to get 25 film recommendations in every conversation. It's been fun just talking movies with friends. But the thing I think that I've enjoyed the most is getting to know these film movie collectors at a deeper level and to learn more about them. So it's been super fun. This is my 10th conversation, and I've been loving this. And so this conversation is special for a couple reasons. One, because it's number 10, and number 2 is because of who it is. So it's Rick from Down to Movie. When I first started this channel, the first 3 people to subscribe to the channel and to follow me on Instagram were Joe and Marie and Rick from Down to Movie. And so anyway, friends, if you've never checked out Rick's channel, Down to Movie, you have. If you're here, you've definitely checked it out. But if by some chance you haven't, down below will be all the information there to YouTube and Instagram, and you gotta follow him. His content is amazing. I've been watching his channel for well over 2 years now, long before I started this channel. And so I've always been a huge fan of his content, and he's constantly putting out amazing stuff, and I watch his channel all the time. So I'm a huge fan. So this was really especially fun for me to get to have a conversation with Rick, get to know him a little bit better, and to talk movies, which is what we all love and why we're here. So friends, thanks so much for checking this one out. This is episode number 10. It was a ton of fun, and I hope you enjoy it.
Then I actually have a movie that I can't physically hold because I watched it on streaming. Not going to tell anybody.
Or you could stop buying movies. And I just like blank stared at her, and it's like, I don't think that, no, that can't happen. So
nope, that is not an option. I'm sorry. I think you're mistaken. It's a childhood favorite.
I watched that movie for the first time yesterday. I'd never seen it before.
Are you serious?
Totally serious. I'd never seen it. And I watched it for the first time yesterday at a Video Game Movie Dome. I got it from Pam. I got the trilogy and the box set, and I watched the first one yesterday.
And?
Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. This is episode number 10 of the 5. So I thought it was appropriate, number 10, that finish this first 10 episodes with you, since it was Joe, Marie, and you, the first 3 people to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on Instagram, and to encourage me to keep going and doing it. So for me, this is a really cool episode to get to do this with you, because I was watching your channel long before I started mine, and was watching everything you guys did, and then did my best to copy everything you guys did to start. So thanks so much for doing this, man. I really do appreciate it.
No, man, thank you for having me. I still remember when I believe Joe had messaged me about your video when it came out, and I believe you had messaged me on Instagram, so I popped it on, and just like your words were so kind that you were starting the channel, and you know, you wanted to thank Joe and Marie and myself and a few others. I was like, wow, it's really awesome. And you know, we started talking a little bit on Instagram, and just I told you, like, it becomes this like family, and you're ready to get sucked in. I know you had talked to Joe about how you felt like the new kid at school. Yeah. And there was, everybody kind of had their groups, and you're like, I don't know if like I'm going to fit in. And I mean, it's just an awesome community. So I'm glad to be doing this for, you know, episode 10. I've watched some of the other episodes, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you about, you know, movies.
Cool. I appreciate it. Now, have you probably noticed watching those other episodes, before we jump into the 5 questions, I do typically have 1 or 2 other questions. And so for you, I only have 1 question, but it's multiple parts to it. And it's more of like a rapid fire. I'm just looking for a yes or no from you.
Okay.
So we haven't gone over this. So the only beef I have with you and your channel, I love it. I've loved it. Yours was one of the very first I saw, and I just love watching your content. And when the pandemic hit, pretty much every live stream you did, I would watch. So I'm a huge fan of your channel. The only problem I have the thing that confuses me to the core of my soul is your decision to not watch The Lord of the Rings. And I'm not going to ask you to explain it. So this is my question for you.
Okay.
Under what scenarios would you watch the Lord of the Rings films? And I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6. I'm going to throw it to you, and you can just say yes or no.
Okay.
All right. If it would save Christmas for all of the children around the world, would you watch it?
Yes. I would take the 48 hours to watch those 6 movies to save Christmas.
Thank you. I'm cool if you don't even watch the Hobbit films. You can ditch
okay.
those. Yeah.
But do I have to watch the extended ones or the regular ones?
This is the deal. I'm cool if you watch the regulars because I think it will lead you to the extendeds. All right, so we'll go with just regulars. All right, so that's the first one. Second one, if Elijah Wood himself asked you to do it, would you do it?
No.
Wow, that's impressive. But I appreciate your commitment. If Ryan Gosling asked you to do it.
Yes. If it meant Ryan Gosling and I becoming best friends, totally.
The minute this conversation is over, I'm hopping over to Cameo to see if he has a Cameo account. And then I got to do fundraising for a $25 Amazon gift card.
Maybe
50.
Yes.
Even that was on the line. Wow. All right. If your son said, Dad, I would love to watch these movies with you.
Yes, because he's made me sit through crap like grown-ups too.
Grown-ups too. It is crap. I do love it, but it's crap.
Without going on a long-winded journey, like I am not a fantasy film person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just over quarantine last year watched the Star Wars films for the first time. So that kind of should shed some light on, like, I've never seen any of the Star Wars movies except for Solo. And I saw that because Donald Glover was in it. So my girlfriend had me watch all the Harry Potter movies because I had never seen those up until about 2 or 3 years ago. I've tried to watch stuff like Labyrinth and Return to Oz. Fantasy movies don't grab me. Like I was dreading watching Game of Thrones, but I loved that. But that also had like a ton of nudity and violence and other things to keep me interested. So I've just been hesitant to watch Lord of the Rings. Plus, they're like the regular ones are almost 3 hours each, right?
Yeah.
So if it's, people always call me out for picking on run times of movies, saying they're too long. If a movie is entertaining and well paced, like a Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas, it could be 2 hours and 45 minutes. Even Titanic, like it's 3 hours and 20 minutes, but it's well paced. I am just worried I am going to be sitting there like, oh, we still got an hour and 45 minutes left. So I'm not saying I would never watch them, but they're just very low on my like I want to watch list.
I respect that.
So
I respect that.
But if it meant saving Christmas for the kids or my buddy Ryan and I hanging out, then I would just make the sacrifice.
Well, then that's why what I'm doing later is attempting somehow. I have to know somebody who knows Ryan Gosling.
Please let me know. If it's Emma Stone, that's fine too. I mean, My girlfriend might be a little upset and jealous, but she would understand.
I appreciate that. I am also not into fantasy movies. So Harry Potter, I think I got 3.5 films in and I called it quits. I just couldn't do it. And my father-in-law bought me the first Lord of the Rings on DVD. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And I put it on a bookshelf, still wrapped in plastic. And then one Saturday, I was just literally feeling bad. I was like, he's going to ask me what I thought of that thing. And I'm going to feel like such a jerk going, I didn't watch it. So I threw it in, and I don't like dragons. I don't like wizards. I don't like any of that stuff. I threw it in, and I was like, this movie is the greatest movie I've ever seen. and it's not, but it's up there for me. And then I went and saw the next one was just coming out in theater, and I went and saw it in theater twice, and I think I saw the next one twice in theater too. So I'll tell you this: so I'm not into any of it. I watched it, a
Okay.
sympathy watch, and then I fell in love with it.
All right.
But if you asked me to watch another dragon movie, I would say I'm not into that. So
Like, I can't think of another dragon movie off
I
the
don't
top of
even
my
watch
head.
them.
Pete's Dragon. That's the only movie I could think of off the top of my head.
I just got at a library sale, had a Train a Dragon on
Yeah.
4K and another one. I have zero interest. I traded them in.
They're good animated films for sure. I'm sure your daughter would be a big fan.
Yes, she would be probably. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for answering that question for me. And I respect your decision not to watch, or at least not to have it high on the list. All right, man. Well, let's dive in. I have 5 questions for you, and you've got 5 films for each question. Each of these conversations are to chat movies with friends, to get 25 film recommendations, and then also to just learn a little bit more about some of my favorite YouTubers. So anyway, here we go. The first question for you, Rick, is what 5 films have you most recently seen?
All right. So the most recent watch, and we had talked about this a little before, like we started recording. We're in October now. So it's your favorite time of year, Halloween horror time. So a few of these movies are going to be horror related. Like this first one that we just watched last night, my girlfriend and I, and that is Escape Room Tournament of Champions, which literally just came out this week. Is the sequel to Escape Room, which came out a few years ago. PG-13 horror movie. Not like an amazing film, but I was curious enough to check out the sequel and couldn't make it to theaters when it was playing. And this is another like entertaining, not something that like I'd recommend going out and buying the first day and like you're going to keep it in your collection. Honestly, this probably won't stay on my shelf. I've watched it. There's an extended version that has like bonus footage. We watched that, so we pretty much covered all our bases, but it was a decent watch. Like I said, I appreciate it's like a psychological thriller more than a horror, and it's PG-13, so there's nothing like super crazy. But yeah, not like a must-see movie there.
Does the whole thing happen in an escape room?
No.
Okay.
It like the first one has this story where people get this puzzle and they have to unlock the puzzle to go in an escape room, and then people start getting killed off one by one. So they find out whoever survives like wins.
Okay.
And then the second one's kind of like part 2 of that story, but then yeah, it's like I said, it's decent. There's some fun elements for both movies, but not like a go rush out and check it out.
All right.
Then I actually have a movie that I can't physically hold because I watched it on streaming. Not going to tell anybody. But it is a Netflix exclusive called Yes Day. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
The birthday thing?
Well, it's Jennifer Garner has.
Yes.
Yeah, she has 3 kids, and they have to say yes all day. It's basically like a family-friendly Yes Man, which was a lot better. But it was a fun movie. Like I definitely, RJ had seen it without me, and I was like, I need something stupid, like kind of mindless on at the time when I was watching it, and put it on. It was a fun like PG family movie, like definitely geared towards younger kids, but there was some, cute elements of it, some really eye-rolling elements as well. Like the amount of damage that these kids did to their house and like vehicle, like I would have had to kill my kids. No, like just kidding. I'm joking. I'm not killing a kid, but like they destroyed a car. They had to go through a car wash with all the windows open. I tell my kid, no, like that's not happening.
Right.
And then they destroy the house with other stuff. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but yeah, just a fun, silly movie. Plus it had a stand-up comic, Fortune Feimster, who my girlfriend and I were actually going to see do stand-up the following night. So
Oh,
it
that's
was
cool.
fun to see her in it. I didn't even realize she was in it, but it was a cool, like, convenient, like, oh, I'm going to see her to do stand up tomorrow. So that was fun. But yeah, yes day was okay for kids.
My daughter watched it and she immediately was like, "When's my yes day? When do I get a yes
Yeah.
day?" And I was like, kind of, but and anyway.
Well, you
And
can set a bunch of rules.
yes, we did
That was good.
establish
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next movie. So there was recently every year, I guess they do a scientific study of the scariest movies that are out. And the movie that was number one, I watched more than 5 movies ago, so I can't talk about that. But this movie was number two on the list, and it was also number one last year. And my girlfriend was like, "Oh yeah, you should totally watch that," and like with an evil smile. And I was like, "Oh, cool, 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 cool." And she's like, "Yeah, it has creepy kids." And I was like, "Well, you know how much that bothers me. It didn't bother me 12 years ago before I
Uh,
had one, but now that I
uh,
have a kid, creepy kids in movies I am not a fan of." And it is a film called Sinister. I don't know
nope.
if you're familiar with this one.
I've seen the
So
commercial, but
Ethan Hawke is the lead actor in the movie. He basically is a true crime writer, and he moves with his family. He has a son and a daughter and his wife, and they move into this house. You find out very early on in the movie that it's actually the house of a family that suffered a tragedy where basically 4 of the 5 members of the family got hung in a tree. And he finds these, it's like a canister of films up in his attic, like the first night that they're in the house. And these films all have these horrendous, like, murders that happen to a family. Like, and each film is a different family. And then crazy stuff starts happening in the house at nighttime. And yeah, I was watching a lot of this movie with one eye open. I was definitely covering my face at parts because we also discussed before recording that I hate jump scares, and this had jump scares, but they were legit creepy, scary jump scares, which I'm okay with as long as I'm going to be scared. And this did that. It was very creepy. I heard the sequel to this is not very good, but this was a creepy watch. This is definitely staying on the shelf, and it's definitely something I will watch again. I actually bought this on eBay because I had no access to it on streaming or anything. So
wow.
Sinister it is very creepy.
Yeah, I can't do that kind of stuff.
The the number one movie, which was a movie called Host. I'm not going to get into it because it's more than 5 ago, but I watched, like, it's only an hour long and it takes place over a Zoom session, the entire movie. Um, I literally watched the second half like this,
Seriously.
and I still, like, I told you when I get a jump scare, I kind of like yelp, and I had a pillow next to me. I was punching the daylights out of the pillow. I was terrified at the scares in the film. So if you guys like that kind of stuff, check out Host. It was on
Wow.
Shudder. 57 minutes long, the movie. Um, the next title I want to talk about, title number 4, is American Psycho, this being the brand new 4K Steelbook. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't, but I've seen that image just nonstop on Instagram.
So it's not a horror movie. I will say that this was actually, I was glad enough to get this from a studio. Lionsgate actually sent this to me to review. And I figured it's a creepy film, like a psychological thriller. So I wanted to squeeze this in October. And this movie is just fantastic. It's based on a Bret Easton Ellis book, same guy who did Rules of Attraction, Less Than Zero. Um, Christian Bale is amazing as Patrick Bateman, this crazy Wall Street yuppie, I guess you would classify him as. But you know, there are 2 scenes in particular in this movie that center around music The first is he's talking about Huey Lewis and the News and their music styles. And as he's doing it, he's putting on like a clear plastic rain jacket, and he grabs an axe out of the bathroom. Some crazy stuff ensues, but he plays like Hip to Be Square by Huey Lewis. And then my favorite scene in the movie takes place, how do I say it? I'm going to keep this PG. He has two ladies of the night with him in his apartment, and he starts playing Phil Collins music. And as we talked before, I've been a Phil Collins fan since I was like 4 years old. And he starts playing Phil Collins, and he talks about Genesis and how they're too progressive and too scientific. And he proceeds to then play Susu Studio by Phil Collins, and there's a weird sex scene between the three people, but it's just like this crazy, are you seeing what's real? Are you seeing what he's believing to be real? It's just like a very well done, like creepy movie, and the cast is insane. Like, this movie's 20 years old now. Reese Witherspoon's in it, Justin Theroux, Chloe Sevigny, Jared Leto, Willem Dafoe. There's probably other people, but those are all the names. Josh Lucas. And like I said, just a young Christian Bale. And of course, he's got the cool, like the Steelbook is really knocking it out of the park. There's lots of like hidden things on the Steelbook, but that was number 4.
Nice.
And then for the help of visual aid, I'll hold up the first movie. But we went and saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage in theaters. We had watched this right before, but Venom, Let There Be Carnage was a fun, like, comic book sequel. I went with my my girlfriend, RJ, my son, and then I took my sister. It was her birthday, so we went and saw Let There Be Carnage. And I thought this movie was fun. The first Venom, I was pleasantly surprised. Wasn't really expecting a lot out of it. And the sequel was a lot of fun too. It combines like, dark humor with a comic book movie, plus Woody Harrelson as Carnage is really good in the movie. And it sets up some pretty crazy stuff in the future of the Sony's superhero universe. So it was a fun time for sure.
I really want to see it. I know people knock even the first one, but I saw the first one in theater by myself and loved it, and then bought it, and I've probably watched it 4 times since then, introducing other people to it. And so I was really curious when this one has been bumped back over a year now, hasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And then they moved it up. It wasn't supposed to come out till like the 22nd, and then they pushed it up to October 1st, which was very surprising because we started seeing movies get like bumped back and delayed again. I was like, oh, I can't go through this again. We don't need this going on. And it ended up doing really well. I think it made like 90 million first weekend. My biggest gripe with it is the total runtime of the movie is 90 minutes, like with credits. And it's a, superhero movie. So, there's something in the credits. So the movie itself is only like 80 to 82 minutes. It felt like they could have done more. Like, it needed to be more. Like, I needed more Venom, but it was a fun time. It was a fun watch for sure. And like I said, RJ really enjoyed it. And it has that dark, like, superhero thing, but also has the humor, which I guess a lot of people are saying is too childish. But I think if you're not going to make Venom an R-rated movie, then you need to put stuff in there that's going to appeal to all ages. Like, you can't just have a gritty Venom and be a PG-13 movie. It's not going to be, families aren't going to go see it if that's the case. But
sure, I'm hoping this week that I get to see it finally. So
it's fun. It's definitely worth seeing movies, and stay for the mid credits.
I heard it's awesome, the mid credits. So
yeah.
All right. Question number 2: what 5 films do you have your earliest memories of?
All right. So this one. The first movie is the first movie I remember seeing in movie theater. So I spent a lot of time staying with my mom and pop up when I was younger after school. While my parents both worked, I would be over their house. So I'm trying to figure out exactly when this came out. I want to say I was either want to say I was 4, 3 or 4, and I remember seeing this in movies vaguely, and that is the Disney film Oliver and Company. And as a kid, the part of this movie that I remember the most is the song, I believe it's called Why Should I Worry? And it was sung by Billy Joel. That's what I remember most about it. But yeah, this is like my earliest memory of going to the movies with my mom to see something. It was Oliver and Company. So not necessarily a movie. I think I probably watched this once when RJ was super young, but not a movie I necessarily rewatch all the time, but it's just a movie that I remember seeing when I was, like I said, probably 3 or 4, probably 4, I would guess. But once again, a movie that centers around like musicians. Billy Joel's the voice of one, Huey Lewis, Bette Midler, all singers are involved in the movie.
That's really cool. I've never seen that one, but
it's, classic Disney. It's only 74 minutes long, so
sure.
it's pretty much like an hour. It's about like a group of dogs in New York City. They're just getting into trouble, doing crazy stuff, wild dogs. The next movie, childhood favorite, a movie I saw in theaters when it came out. It's a film called The Wizard. I don't know if you're familiar with this one.
I've heard, I know of it, but I've never seen it.
So basically, this movie, if we're going to be honest, was a glorified ad for Nintendo.
Okay.
To an extent, and also Universal Studios Hollywood. It stars Fred Savage, and he has a brother played by, I want to say his name is Luke Edwards. Yes, from Newsies, Luke Edwards. And Luke Edwards, he kind of has like a learning disability. He seems a bit distant, and he decides he wants to go to California. And Fred Savage is his older brother, and they start hitchhiking to California. Christian Slater plays his older brother, and Beau Bridges plays his dad. And they start off on this like adventure to go to California. They meet a girl played by Jenny Lewis, and they decide they're going to go to the video game championships because Luke Edwards' character is like a wizard at playing video games. Like he's mesmerized by it, but he's really good at it. And like I said, they end up going to Universal Studios Hollywood. There's a big video game tournament. It was the way Nintendo revealed Super Mario Brothers 3. So just a fun movie. Not a masterpiece or anything, but just a movie I watched quite a bit as a kid. So I actually still remember the movie poster to this quite a bit. That was the poster at the movie theater with all the like corny 8-bit like Atari graphics, and then Mario's right there.
That's hilarious.
So, but a fun movie with, like I said, a pretty good cast. And this is the Shout Factory version because there was initially a Universal Blu-ray, and they said the photo quality on it was similar to the VHS.
Really?
And then this came out, and it got like an ultra 4K restoration upgrade on Blu-ray, and it looks beautiful. So had to grab that when it came out. And like I said, I showed RJ this one because I was like, I watched this movie when I was a kid. RJ was big into Mario and video games, so I was like, I need to show you this movie. And it actually, he enjoyed it, so it holds up for a different generation, which is cool to see.
That's awesome.
Next childhood movie, probably once again, I was like 5 or 6, is the Disney classic Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I remember going to MGM Studios as a kid and getting to play in the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground. And it was like themed to be like tall grass, and like there was a giant ant that was in the playground. But this is a really fun movie. Rick Moranis obviously is awesome in this movie. I even have the sequel too. I know there's, I think, 3 of them, but I only have the first 2. But another really fun movie that I grew up watching. And like I said, I remember going to MGM Studios and getting to play in the play area, which was, a memory tied to this movie. There was also like a walkthrough exhibit where somebody could get picked to ride on the bee from the movie.
Really?
I always wanted to be that kid. I was never lucky enough to get picked. So, but yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is definitely a fun like childhood movie for me.
It's super good, man. I don't think my daughter's seen that yet, but I need to show that to her because it's so fun.
Yeah, and it's goofy because then the second one they blow up there's like a toddler and they make him really big. And I'll save my surprising pick for last. This is probably one that's on everybody's list. It's Back to the Future. One of my top 3 favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just stick with the first one for saying Back to the Future, but it's honestly probably number 2 for me. But Back to the Future, the original, is, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I always wanted a DeLorean. As soon as I saw this movie, I was like, I need that car. It's just a funny movie, but also a movie with a lot of heart and just like cool ideas of what the future is going to be like. I remember watching part 2 and being like, oh, 2015, like we're gonna have flying cars and all sorts of crazy. Yeah, it didn't necessarily pan out that way. There's not real hoverboards, only things on wheels. I don't know why they're called hoverboards and not hovering. But yeah, I mean, Back to the Future, like I said, there was no way I wasn't going to mention Back to the Future in this video. So it's a childhood favorite.
I watched that movie for the first time yesterday. I'd never seen it before.
Are you serious?
Totally serious. I'd never seen it. And I watched it for the first time yesterday at a Video Game Movie Dome. I got them from Pam. I got the trilogy and the box set, and I watched the first one yesterday.
And?
Loved it. It was great.
I mean, such Doc Brown and Marty are just like the relationship they have. It's a bit weird if you like look at it now as a grown up. Like, why was this high school kid hanging out with this crazy doctor that everybody is like, stay away from? But man, yeah, I see. It's one of those things I love about movies, like especially now with RJ. Getting to watch a movie with somebody for their first time, like wishing that I could re-experience certain movies for the first time. Like, I mean, I showed him the 3 Back to the Future movies probably 3 or 4 years ago, and he enjoyed the first 2. Wasn't a big fan of the third one, but that's okay. I kind of feel the same way. But just to get the chance to watch some of like my favorite movies again for the first time would just be such a cool like experience.
Well, it's like I saw Jaws for the first time a month or 2 ago. And I was talking to someone. It's like, because the first time you see a great movie, you never get that experience back. The first time you listen to a killer album, the first time you listen to Nirvana's Nevermind, it just blew my mind. Like it changed the world of music for me. And you never get that experience back again. So for me, I'm kind of like, I'm kind of excited about the films that I've never seen, because for me the 80s is like a black hole for music and movies. I know almost nothing, and so for me it's been exciting to pull up these movies that I've heard everyone talk about forever and watch them for the first time.
Yeah, the only bummer there is sometimes there's that like that rare occasion where something gets overhyped and you finally watch it and you're like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I don't get it. Of course, nothing's like coming to mind, but there's been stuff that like was so overhyped. And I just recently watched The Sixth Sense for the first time.
Okay.
Not necessarily like a classic, but definitely like a modern, like suspense thriller classic that I knew the ending of. And I wish I didn't, because the whole time I'm watching it from that like jaded set of eyes. Like I want to watch that movie with not knowing what the ending is.
Yeah.
But I guess when you wait 22 years to watch it, you're kind of out of luck.
For me, that film, I saw it with my wife in theater. I think we just got married. Okay. And I remember at the end of that movie going, that's BS, man. Like I got to buy that when it comes out, because I know they made a mistake somewhere, and they obviously didn't. And it was amazing. But that Back to the Future, what I thought was so funny in that movie was, and I know you're a big SNL fan, is all of the little things Michael J. Fox does, his little voice inflections, all I could see in my head was David Spade doing his impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was an added layer of joy for me.
You build a time machine out of the DeLorean? That's heavy.
Yeah.
Is there a problem with gravity?
Yeah, that heavy thing. So it was fun. I was glad to see it finally.
And then there's the whole weird thing where he's like, his mom's trying to sleep with him.
Super weird. That movie wouldn't get made today.
No, definitely not. But the whole like Calvin Klein thing, it's
super funny.
Yeah. And then the last movie, you're going to be excited because it's a movie from pre-1970.
Oh man, this is exciting.
Actually, two of those I'm going to be talking about. And I don't know if you've seen this one. Are you a big musical fan?
No, I'm trying to get into it, but no, I'm not naturally.
So this is a movie that my sister, who is 2.5 years younger than me, me and my grandmother would watch very frequently. And it recently got re-released to Blu-ray because it was super, super expensive. Like it was a Twilight Time release and it was like $150. And I was like, I love the movie, but not for $150. I don't love the movie. And Sony, I believe, put out an MOD, and I was like, I'm pre-ordering it. I'm buying it because I wanted to rewatch it. And it had been probably 25 years since I'd watched it from when I was a little kid. And like, it brought up all these emotions because it made me think of my grandmother right away, who's no longer with us. And so much of the story and music, like I remembered, even though it had been 25 years. And that is a movie called Bye Birdie. It stars Anne Margaret, Dick Van Dyke, Janet Leigh. And it's the story of pretty much like this Elvis-like character named Conrad Birdie, who is being drafted, and they try to create this big publicity thing where he's going to go on Ed Sullivan and kiss a girl before he goes away to war. And Dick Van Dyke is a songwriter who hasn't had any luck, and he's going to write this big song for him to perform on the Ed Sullivan Show. And it's just such a fun musical. The music is so catchy in it, and it's a fun, like a lighthearted movie, but like pretty goofy, but just a really, really great movie with fantastic music. And it just like I said, brought all sorts of childhood memories back to get to rewatch it in the last probably 3 months. And definitely a musical I recommend checking out. I think it's from 63. Yeah, 63. So one I watched quite a bit as a young kid.
That's awesome.
My sister was always watching the Shirley Temple movies with her, and I was trying to find like movies I could watch that I was totally not bored by, and Bye Birdie was one of those. That and Grease, which I watched when I was way too young too.
All right. Joe and I were talking about musicals because I know he's a musical guy, and
which is so funny because he also
hilarious
likes torture horror films, and, like watching people get slaughtered and tortured.
So I told him as he knows, I'm not into blood and gore, and I'm also not into musicals. But the one musical that I love is that Johnny Depp, The Demon Barber.
Oh, that's on my to-watch list for this month. I've never seen it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't like bloody movies. I don't like musicals. I could watch that back over and over. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I am not a big Johnny Depp guy.
That's right. You aren't.
A little leery, but like I remember my dad showing me and my sister Rocky Horror probably when we were 4 or 5, and couldn't imagine showing that to a 5-year-old now.
Yeah.
But another fantastic musical, and like I said, I always grew up listening to music, so I guess I was more drawn to musicals. You know, I watched Sound of Music for the first time last year because Joe's such a big fan of it. A lot of people know about my obsession with La La Land.
Mm-hmm.
So a modern day musical that I think is absolutely fantastic, but I'm a sucker for musicals. You know,
I do. I after the Joe conversation, 2 people sent me a copy of The Sound of Music because I had said I'd never seen it. So I do have it now, and I do have to watch it.
It is a fantastic movie. I will say I am upset I did not watch it sooner.
Now, isn't that super long?
Yep. Yeah, and there you go. There's the perfect example. Like, I want to say it's I don't think I have it within arm's reach.
It's well over 3 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours and 50 minutes, 3 hours. But I was the same way when I watched Gone with the Wind. I was dreading watching that because was like 4 hours. Was not bored at all. If a movie's well paced, man, I'm on board.
All right, I gotta watch it still. All right, question number 3. What 5 films have had the greatest impact on you? It can be emotionally, your worldview, your life perspective, any of those things, none of those things, but just the biggest impact on you.
So this was probably the toughest question that you asked because from watching other ones, it's the one where people tend to get like emotionally vulnerable. So I was thinking about like different points in my life and how certain things affected me and like things I've gone through. So the first movie, we'll have to ignore the top movie here because it's a double feature. So we'll try to cover that up, is A Time to Kill, which stars Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson, Sandra Bullock. A movie about a court case in Mississippi. I want to say it's in Mississippi. Samuel L. Jackson's daughter is harassed, and he basically protects them. He is being put on trial. I want to say he injured somebody or killed somebody. I'm sorry, I sound like I've never seen this movie before, but there's a scene in particular in the film. Have you seen A Time to Kill?
Yeah.
So there's a scene towards the end of the movie where Matthew McConaughey is giving his closing argument in a courtroom. It's summer. Everybody, like I said, it's in Mississippi. They're all drenched in sweat. Everybody's hot. And he gives this deposition. It basically is talking about a girl walking home. He tells everybody to close their eyes. And he talks about a girl walking home and she's beaten and all this horrific stuff. And then he says a line at the end. And he says, "Now imagine she's white and open your eyes." And just saying that line now, I know you can't see it on camera. I literally have goosebumps all over my arms. The first time I watched that, he says that line, and not only do I get like the chills down my spine, the goosebumps, like I just start bawling my eyes out.
Wow.
And it's such a powerful moment in the movie. Just one, like, I was trying to think about what movie has gotten that like emotional response from me, and this was the first movie I thought of for that like aspect of like what movie really stuck with me emotionally. And it's just crazy to see what they're going through. And the movie takes place, and I want to say the 60s the movie takes place in, or is it modern time?
I feel like it was set back in a bit of a period.
It's crazy to me how much of this movie, sadly, is there's issues in this film that are still relevant today. And it just stuck with me on that level that, elicited emotional response from me. So I wanted to mention that scene alone, like you can watch the scene on YouTube, but in the whole context of the film, it's just such a powerful part of the movie. So A Time to Kill is the first one. And then I decided to pick out the first movie that I remember crying while watching. And it's a bit of an interesting one because I saw this in the movie theater, and I was probably 14 years old at the time. And a lot of people are going to be like, this seems like an odd choice for you to put, but it is the Robin Williams film Patch Adams.
Oh, yeah. I bawl in that movie.
I still remember when, I believe it's his girlfriend in the film.
Yeah.
What's her name? The blonde actress. Monica Potier?
Yeah. Monica Potter, yeah.
She goes over and she's killed, and I don't know why as a 14-year-old it like emotionally struck me so hard, but I just remember like just bawling in the movie theater. And it's such a happy movie but also such a sad movie at the same time. He's a doctor and he takes care of sick children, and he's not a doctor. He's like I guess he's technically a doctor, but his job, like he always believes that medicine or laughter is the best form of medicine to like keep these kids who have, you know, these horrible diseases, like try to bring smiles to their faces. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, I remember, is really good in the movie, but I just remember crying at this movie as a 14-year-old kid. And that's the first time I really remember being emotional watching a movie. Like, not only can it make me like laugh, which as a 14-year-old, I was mostly watching comedy movies intended for teenagers and 20-year-old teenage, you know, kids, but watching this just emotionally struck a chord with me. So that's why I picked Patch Adams.
The scene in that movie that still to this day gets me every single time is that little old lady who always wanted to go into a swimming pool full of noodles. That scene, I cry every single time. It wrecks me. It's just seeing the joy on her face to be in there gets me every time.
You'll notice it's still sealed in plastic because I don't know how Rick, who has a son, and like, I don't know how I'm emotionally going to respond to this movie now. So I'm like afraid to rewatch it, but I remember loving the movie so much that I really do want to revisit it, but I'm also terrified to rewatch it because, you know, I've found as I've gotten older and obviously having a kid and going through some other like personal life stuff, I get a lot more emotional watching movies than I ever did before. Like I used to be like, oh, that's upsetting, but now it's like, what's going on with my eye? I feel like I have something's in there, but like it happens more often than not, or you get that lump in your throat. You're like, I just need some water. I just need. But
I don't know what it is, man. I'm in my early 40s, and I know my dad is that way too. But I just get more emotional as the older I get, and especially once my daughter came along, I'm just a mess. But even if I hate hockey. I think I'm a Canadian, so I should love it, but I hate it. If somebody wins the Stanley Cup and they're cheering, I get like weepy, like any kind of like joy or emotion. The older I get, it's just like, everything makes me emotional. So,
well, it's funny you bring up sports. As a pretty much a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan, they won the Super Bowl 4 years ago. And I remember watching them, and like it was a close game to the end, and they won. It's the first time I've ever watched sports, and I got teary-eyed. Like I was like, my team finally like won. They won.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there like, why? What the freak am I doing? Why am I crying? This is absurd. But
yeah,
you know, watching them for so long, like get close to Super Bowl, it got me, which is, you know.
It's so funny,
but
because you're like, why am I crying? These are grown men, being paid millions of dollars.
Yeah, why is this affecting my life? I still have to get up and go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? So next up is probably the only other horror movie we'll talk about. I guess this is technically a horror film. I think of it more as like a social commentary thriller, and as a film called Get Out. Have you seen Get Out?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So my first experience watching this, I got to see an early advanced screening of this movie in a packed movie theater. I would say the theater was probably about 25% white and 75% black. So that was an interesting experience in itself, especially for a movie like this. If people watching don't know, it's basically a movie about Chris, played by Daniel Kaluuya, and he's dating a white girl played by Allison Williams, and they're going to go meet her parents for the first time. And Lil Rel plays his friend, and he's like, "You can't go. Like, white people are crazy. You can't be there." And basically, it reinforces that by the family that he goes to. Everything is not as it seems, and they're basically looking to take over the bodies of black people who have talents. Like, if I'm not mistaken, he is a photographer, so he has a great eye for photography. You know, there's mentions of like he's approached by all these older white people, and they're like, oh, if I could vote for Obama third term, I would. But being in the movie theater watching this movie, like, all the people were yelling, like, don't trust the white people. Why are you there? Like, get out of this theater. And I'm like, well, this is uncomfortable for me. But like, it's also like, I can't view this movie from that perspective. But I mean, knowing what's going on in the world today, obviously this is a ramped up, like, crazy version of that. But it's fitting, I guess, sadly, to see this movie and look at the social issues it brings forth. It's also a movie that I believe gets better on a rewatch, knowing what goes on in the film and watching it with like eyes, seeing where the characters are going, knowing where they go. It's a fascinating film, but just a crazy theatrical experience, one that stuck with me because I got to see a movie with people that have a different mind frame than me, and seeing how they reacted to the film where I was looking at it a different way. I was like, they don't seem so bad. And then all of a sudden he's tied up to a chair and he's going into the sunken place. I was like, obviously these people are really scummy. So yeah, Get Out. I wanted to mention, I was torn between this and Blind Spotting, which is another fantastic film about social injustice issues. But I went Get Out because it's probably one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years.
Cool.
A fantastic film. Then I needed to pick out a movie that I think represented fatherhood the best, and a movie that just, I don't know, when I think of fatherhood, I think of this film. And it's the other old movie I'm going to talk about. It's To Kill a Mockingbird. The classic story of Atticus Finch and Boo Radley, and just the heartstrings that the movie tugs at. Another like courtroom drama. But I remember, so this movie is one that my senior high school English teacher always liked to talk to me about, because he was a big movie fan as well. So I would get to his class as fast as I could, and we would talk about movies before the bell rang, and he would ask what I had watched recently, and he would recommend certain things. And he was actually a teacher. He showed us The Godfather in class senior year.
Wow.
He goes, this is the most important piece of cinema history, and it's tied to a marvelous book. And at the end of the year, he would give every student he taught a book. He would, knowing how they were, knowing what they liked, what interests they had. At the end of every year, he would buy all his students, so probably 150 kids.
Wow.
He would buy each kid an individual book and like write a note why he picked it. And he gave me One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I said, do you think I'm insane? Like, what's going on? And he said, as a one movie lover to another, you should own this book because it's a fantastic novel of a classic film. So, wow. But we talked about To Kill a Mockingbird in that class quite a bit. Like I said, the father-son relationship that Atticus had, or is it son or daughter? Now I feel like a schmuck. Is it son or his daughter? I'm totally blanking.
I haven't seen it yet. I just picked it up recently.
It's just a fantastic film, and it teaches, like I said, Boo Radley is on trial, and Atticus Finch is his attorney, and it's an outstanding movie. And like I said, the relationship that Atticus has with his kid, that was the movie I thought of when I thought about like parenthood and how important it is to raise your kids with like proper beliefs and to respect all sorts of people, regardless of what they look like, if they're different from you. So
that's awesome. Is that a Steelbook edition?
Of course it is.
That's awesome, man. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I have it on Blu-ray, but I've never seen the Steelbook. Still
sealed. 2017. I think this was like a Target exclusive.
That's really
This came out the same time as like there was the Sting Steelbook, and something else came out around the same time. But this was one I grabbed the day it came out. So
nice. I think Jeff Daniels is doing that on Broadway right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He would make a great Atticus for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the last movie is also tied to a book. And it is a book that is my favorite book of all time. It is a book that when I was upset as a teenager, it was my comfort thing. I literally would just dive into the book if I was having like just a bad day, or if like teenage emotions were just getting the best of me. And it's a movie, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So the book is also written by Steven Chbosky, who writes and directs the film. It is probably one of my favorite coming of age movies of all time. Charlie, who's the main character, Logan Lerman, just is this out of place kid who he's obsessed with like listening to music, and he kind of does his own thing. He meets Sam, who's played by Emma Stone, and Sam's group of friends, and hangs out with them and just realizes that even though he's an individual, he can still find friends and still just be himself and be liked by others, but do his own thing. And there are other people who like the same things as you. You don't have to feel like because you like this weird band or something that like everybody's going to think you're weird and you're an awful person. Like stuff teenagers think like, oh man, I like this and nobody else thinks it's cool. I should probably just not listen to it or not tell anybody I like it because they're going to think I'm a weird kid. But this has like a fantastic young cast in it. Like I said, Logan Lerman, Emma Watson, Ezra Miller, Mae Whitman, and then Kate Walsh and Dylan McDermott. I believe Paul Rudd plays, I think he's a teacher in this movie. It also has Joan Cusack. But just like I said, this book is really, I know this isn't about books, but the book is a very important book that was like a coping mechanism for me when I was a kid, a teenager primarily. So the movie was actually one of those rare instances where the movie does a great job of showing the book on screen. So
that's cool.
Yeah, The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Nice. I had a friend of mine coming back to Lord of the Rings. So he's like 20 years older than me. And
okay.
And it just reminded me of what you said with the connection between the book and the film. Because you're right, most of them, it's not a great connect. But he said about that one, and so I think it's cool how you read the book first and then saw the movie, that order?
Yeah. Yep.
So he read the Lord of the Rings when he was a kid. And so as an older man, he's in the theater watching Lord of the Rings, and he said he just started to cry because it was everything that was in his imagination as a kid as he'd sit in his room by himself for hours reading those books. Mm. And so it was really cool that that book was so significant for you, and then to see it come alive on the screen and it fulfilled all of the expectations. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was, a lot of times you read a book and they announce they're making a movie of it and you're really excited. The casting can be fantastic. And then you watch the movie and you're like, well, I wish that was just stuck to being a book because that was depressing.
Right.
But Perks of Being a Wallflower definitely did it good. And like I said, just a really good young cast, a great soundtrack in the film, which is very important to me when watching movies. So definitely. We'll talk about some soundtracks coming up soon that were very important. So
cool. Well, then question number 4 is, what 5 films do you consider to be underrated?
All right. So I went primarily with like newer movies, probably like the last 20 years. Movies I don't think get enough like praise or love. And the first one is a movie that's very heavily about music, and that is a movie called Sing Street. Have you seen Sing Street?
I have not, but in the last 2 months, I've probably had 4 people recommend it to me.
Well, now you have 5. So Sing Street is written and directed by the guy who did Once and Begin Again. I don't know if you've seen either of those, John Carney.
No.
And it takes place in 1980s Dublin. And the main character, whose name is Connor, decides he wants to start a band to impress a girl, and him and his friends basically start a band, and they start filming music videos, and then he invites the girl to be a part of the music video. And it's all original. Well, there's a lot of original music in the film that the band performs that's very catchy, incredibly well done, a fantastic soundtrack, but it also has a lot of 80s, like Joe Jackson Stepping Out, and oh man, I can't think of other songs off the top of my head. That's the one that always comes into mind. But it's very, very well done. I cannot praise this movie enough for just being a great, like, original concept, but also with its own original music. And it just feels like more people should know about this movie, as, like, I think it came out in 2016. And I feel like not a lot of people have any idea, like, about it. They're not familiar. And there's no actor in this movie I could tell you where you'd be like, oh, I think I know them from something. It's all people that, A, I have trouble pronouncing their names, and B, I don't think you've seen anybody else in another movie, or at least not a popular, like, well-known film or TV show. So it's always refreshing to see, because it's not like, oh, there's Cameron Crowe or Russell Crowe playing somebody, like, on screen. You're like, these are all just fresh faces. Like, what's this about? And it's just a fun coming of age, a kid's trying to get a girl to fall for him, so he starts making rock music.
That's cool.
So
I do need to see it.
Definitely recommend that one. Speaking of coming of age stories, this is another one that has an interesting chemistry because it's between the two leads, and that's The Edge of 17, which stars Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. So it's funny that it's not like two, young girls that are best friends in their journey. It's Haley Steinfeld and her teacher, who's played by Woody Harrelson, and she's just not happy with the way, like, life's going. Her best girlfriend starts dating her older brother, and that upsets her, and she starts spending time with this teacher, and she's really annoying to the teacher, and they have this witty banter back and forth between, like, a girl who's well beyond her years and this teacher who's in a young marriage with a baby daughter. And Kira Sedgwick plays her mother, and she's not really involved in her life very much. And Woody Harrelson's just very funny as this gruff teacher who you can tell is just teaching at school to, like, make ends meet and doesn't want to be bothered. And she likes to sit in the front desk class and, like, talk to him while he's eating his lunch. And he goes, I'm trying to eat here. I don't want to talk about your problems. And they form this relationship, but it's a really good coming of age film about the relationship they form. And Haley Steinfeld in this movie is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy this one. It's another one that I actually think this was at Dollar Tree recently, maybe on DVD, but one I would recommend. I think this came out in, like, 2017 as well. So in the last 5 years, this one is. But a very good coming of age movie that I recommend. Not just, it's not like younger people will just appreciate it. Like, it's rated R, so it tackles some, like, heavier topics, but it's a really good movie.
I just added it to my list.
Nice. I had one make the list. I did something right. So this is a movie that I like to describe as, this is kind of non-PG. This movie is like food porn at its finest. And it is a movie called Chef. So Jon Favreau stars in it, but also features Scarlett Johansson, John Leguizamo, Robert Downey Jr. is in it, Oliver Platt, Dustin Hoffman, like an all-star cast. Carl, who is Jon Favreau's character, he works for an LA restaurant, and he's trying so hard to earn his Michelin star. And he decides that, like, he doesn't want to deal with the food critics. He doesn't want that stress. And he basically decides to, like, reinvigorate his love of cooking and starts his own food truck. And he takes his son on the road with him, and like they have a bonding experience through food. And John Leguizamo is like his sous chef in the restaurant, and he helps him clean up this truck and create his own food truck. And they want to make Cuban sandwiches, but it's just like is a movie that you shouldn't watch like if you're hungry.
Okay.
You should eat before you watch it, because there's some scenes in this. He makes the best looking grilled cheese sandwich you've ever seen in your entire life. If you love grilled cheese, you're just going to be like mouth watering when you watch it. But I believe Roy Choi was the co-producer of the movie, and he did like a lot of the food scenes to make it accurate. Like he taught Jon Favreau like the steps to make food the way he would, and he's like a famous chef, and it's loosely based on like his story. And Jon Favreau wrote and directed the movie, and it was just it's an outstanding film. It's funny, it has a lot of heart, and like I said, just an amazing cast. You can tell just by like looking at the bottom there, seeing all those people that, you know, a lot of people love 90% of the cast. So Chef is definitely a movie I would recommend. If you're a foodie, you'll enjoy it. It has a great father-son story. I forget who plays his son. Young actor MJ Anthony, who I don't really know from anything else, but he's funny. He's probably like 10, 11 in the movie. And just the relationship him and Jon Favreau have is really good. Sofia Vergara plays his ex-wife, and she lets him go on the food truck journey with his dad. So it's a fun movie for sure.
Cool. I put that one on the list too.
Nice.
Have you seen Spanglish?
I did. Yeah, I did recently. Probably last year I watched Spanglish for the first time.
That's the other film that food-wise, because he makes that sandwich in that film. I've watched the special bonus feature of him making that sandwich I don't know how many times, just like sitting there going, oh, that looks so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, if you watch this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about this grilled cheese scene. You're going to be like, first off, I've never made a grilled cheese sandwich that looked like that. Second off, like, how do I make that grilled cheese sandwich? Like, it is crazy how good he makes a grilled cheese sandwich look. And like, awesome. The effort he puts into making this grilled cheese, and it's for his son. Like, he's making a grilled cheese for his kid who's doing homework. So next up is another movie that centers around music, and this is a biopic from 2015, and that is Love and Mercy, which is basically about Brian Wilson. And Brian Wilson as a young man when he's doing Pet Sounds, played by Paul Dano, and then Brian Wilson as an older man. So it talks a lot about Brian Wilson's issues he's had throughout his life. He basically, his manager was, it's hard to say without like spoiling it. His manager was kind of like manipulating Brian Wilson and kind of like kept him in a catatonic state for so long. But when it goes back to Paul Dano, it's when they're making Pet Sounds, which is probably the Beach Boys' most famous album of all time. And Paul Giamatti plays the scumbag manager, as he does very well in films. But it's an interesting look. I know this movie gets some hate, especially from, if you look at the two of them, he doesn't necessarily look like Brian Wilson. I think Paul Dano does a good job of, you know, kind of having the young Brian Wilson look. Well, a lot of people are like, that's just John Cusack. It's not Brian Wilson. Like, they didn't want to do anything to change up his look. And then Elizabeth Banks plays a love interest when he's older. But it talks about like the Beach Boys, like I said, the creation of Pet Sounds, the issues he has with bandmates, but just a very, very good music biopic, one that I never ever hear talked about at all. And I remember seeing it and going out and getting the soundtrack probably 2 or 3 days later, because it was that good. And like I said,
Wow.
Paul Dano can sing very well. And I'm not the biggest Beach Boys fan, but I really do have an appreciation for a music biopic. Like, even if it's not somebody like we talked about, I think it was prior to recording, I said I'm not a country music fan, and you mentioned Johnny Cash, and I watched Walk the Line, and I have a whole new appreciation for Johnny Cash. And I'm a sucker for a music biopic. I love movies that have either fantastic soundtracks or just are about the music business, about music in general. It has to be really bad for me not to like a movie that like is about like modern music. Even Bohemian Rhapsody, which tends to have a mixed response. Like, I enjoyed that thoroughly. Rocket Man. I want to see Respect, which I don't really know Aretha Franklin's career at all, but I'm curious about seeing that because, like I said, if it's about modern music, I'll watch it. Like Jersey Boys, I haven't seen, but I know that's about Frankie Valli, so I'm curious to watch something like that. But this is a really well done look at Brian Wilson's career, what he went through between Pet Sounds and older Brian Wilson. It does some time jump stuff that can be annoying, but there's a reason why they're doing the time jump stuff. And I think Brian Wilson was connected to the movie to try to make it more accurate, at least from his end. Obviously, there's multiple people in the Beach Boys, not just Brian Wilson, but still a movie I recommend checking out, especially if you're a fan of the Beach Boys or you like biopics about musicians.
Cool. I've never even heard of that film before.
So Paul Dano knocks it out of the park. I cannot praise his performance enough in this movie. John Cusack, I love John Cusack. I praise Paul Dano in this movie.
I put that on the list too, man. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Beach Boys fan, but I recently was at a Goodwill, and I think there's a 4-disc set, and two of the discs that have full artwork and everything was at my Goodwill, and I grabbed it, and it's got like everything except for maybe one or two of their songs that I'd love to have. And I was listening through it, and I was like, this is so good. Like, I remember my dad playing it when I was like a really little kid, and then it's just not been on my radar for 30 years. And so I definitely need to check that out.
Well, it's interesting too, because like I said, they talk about the making of the album Pet Sounds. And that was an album that was incredibly experimental because they used all sorts of obscure things to create sound effects on the album. It wasn't like cookie cutter, like we're going to use this to make this noise. Brian Wilson might have been on some drugs at the time and was trying to come up with different ideas for creating sounds, and it explores that, which I found to be fascinating.
All right. I definitely got to check that out.
And I mean, there was no way I wasn't going to talk about this last movie during this video. It is my favorite film of all time, and it is Rounders. I just grabbed the Blu-rays. I didn't want to grab all my DVDs or my Laserdisc or VHS, so I just went with my Blu-rays. I'll hold my favorite artwork up. So, have you seen Rounders, John?
Of course, yes.
Right.
John Malkovich.
Yes, John Malkovich.
So good.
John Malkovich is fantastic in this film. Edward Norton plays the scumbag in this movie so incredibly well. Matt Damon, fantastic as Mike, the lead. You have John Turturro in a great small supporting role. Martin Landau as the professor at the law school. And it's just, I was huge into poker back in my younger years. I was at the right age, I guess, during the Texas Hold'em boom, where I might have been a little under the age of 21, but my friends all got into cards and we started playing poker regularly. As soon as I turned 21, I started going to Atlantic City often, not like all the time, not like weekly, but I got to go to Vegas and play cards in Vegas. I was super into poker. I've always said I have like a very mathematic mind, so playing poker is more enjoyable for me than the average person because you're not playing against the casino, you're playing against other people. Mathematics are an important part of the game. And this, I think, is probably the most accurate portrayal of poker in a film. And it's just a great movie. Like, there's humor in it, not a lot of humor, but a dramatic story, a redemption story. There's a villain who you also kind of like because John Malkovich is so good at playing his character in the movie. Like, but it's just, I love Rounders. And, when people ask me my favorite movie and I answer this, people go, well, that's an interesting pick. Because, there's those I don't want to say cookie cutter answers because I don't want to pick on somebody's favorite movie. But like, a lot of times you hear the same movies. You hear Citizen Kane. You hear The Godfather. You hear
Braveheart.
Yeah, Gladiator, Halloween if you're Joe. Or Sound of Music if you're Joe. Yeah. But Rounders, I almost feel like it's this off-the-wall pick, but it's a movie that I've watched dozens and dozens of times. It's, I love the topic. I love poker, and there's just good performances throughout, and it's always a fun watch. Yeah, fun watch. I'll say fun, I guess is the right word, because the characters are just so enjoyable to me, and I just really, really enjoy the movie. So Rounders, I have to mention as an underrated movie because I don't think a lot of people have necessarily seen it. They've probably heard of it because I talk about it a lot, especially people watch my videos, but just a movie I love. And probably one of the only movies I own probably like 10 times over.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, somebody just sent me a version of it from Korea.
Really?
Or Taiwan, yeah, on DVD. So I have the VHS screener copy that was sent over to me. I have the Laserdisc.
That's awesome.
I love the movie. So
very cool, man. And then the last question is, what 5 films bring you the most joy, hope, laughter? They put a smile on your face.
So this was hard in a different aspect because, as we talked about prior to recording, I love comedy movies, and that's exactly where my mind went to. What movie do I put on to sit and talk along with the entire thing? Because a lot of these movies I can probably recite 75 to 100% of them. What movie just brings a smile to my face? What's a movie I can always watch? If it's on TV, I keep it on at least until a commercial, because who wants to watch a movie with commercials? So these are the 5 movies that came to my head. 4 of them are Steelbooks too, which is a surprise to me. The first one is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the John Hughes classic. Matthew Broderick takes the day off from school and all sorts of chaos occurs, but it's a fun movie. Alan Ruck plays his best friend Cameron, and it's, as a kid, like, who didn't want to be Ferris Bueller? Who didn't want to skip school and go to a Cubs game and be in a parade and hang out with your best friend and your girlfriend? So just a really fun movie, an incredibly quotable film, as all these are, in my opinion. So
that's an 80s film. Yeah.
86.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It's in that decade, man. It's almost like a black hole for me, where
I wonder,
nothing happened.
Man, I'm curious how many of these 5 you've seen. I'm gonna say 2.
2? All right.
I hope more, but if you haven't seen Ferris, I'm gonna guess 2, and I'm being optimistic. But yeah, I highly recommend Ferris Bueller. Like I said, written and directed by John Hughes, peak John Hughes. I could have easily pulled out Weird Science, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, but this was the John Hughes movie that I picked. So Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Next up would be like 20-something Rick's favorite movie. I thought Jonah Hill and I were like long lost brothers. Back when I had a full head of hair and not all this hair missing, I had big curly hair and huge sideburns. I didn't have this beard, so it was pre-beard. I had these big sideburns and curly hair, so it reminded me of Jonah Hill in this movie, and that is Superbad. A movie that man, I laughed so much. I watched it with my buddies all the time when we would hang out and drink, because this came out, I was 23. So it was at that perfect age where you're hanging out with the boys and you're drinking beer and you're just watching a movie that's obscene, but it was also like, this movie is incredibly heartwarming as well. The relationship between Evan and Seth. And I actually just listened to Seth Rogen's audiobook, and it talks about, because this is based on his teenage years with Evan Goldberg, who is a co-writer on a lot of the stuff Seth Rogen does. So this was like a passion project of theirs, and it's just a really, really funny movie. Also, the first movie of Emma Stone, and we all know I love Emma Stone. So just a very funny movie. There's the whole McLovin character, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of this movie. I love like I guess it's not a baking class, home ec. That's the word I was looking for. Home ec scene in the beginning where Jonah Hill gets partnered up with Emma Stone, and Michael Cera gets partnered up with this other kid, and Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill's all mad because he's looking over at Michael Cera and they're like rubbing flour on each other's face to make them look like cats. And he's like trying to flirt with Emma Stone, but when she's not looking, he's doing all this like obscene stuff to try to get his friends to laugh. And then he's like, "What? I didn't do anything." It was just like what me and my friends did in high school.
Sure.
And like, it's just a really funny movie. Have you seen this?
I've seen one scene from it, and the only reason I saw that scene is because a buddy of mine is an extra in it, and there's a party. Well, I don't know if there's more than one party, but there's a party scene where there's stuff going around, and he's standing right in the middle of it. And so it's great because I can see my buddy the whole time this whole scene is happening. He's not kind of in the corner; he's in the middle. He just doesn't have a speaking part. So I've seen that scene. Other than that, I haven't seen any of it.
So have you seen because during that scene, there's also like a bunch of guys in a room and they start singing These Eyes by the Guess Who. Have you seen that part of it?
No.
Do yourself a favor tonight. You don't have to watch the whole movie, but just search Superbad, These Eyes. And it's Michael Cera singing like in this awful high-pitched like Michael Cera voice to a bunch of guys whose party he wasn't invited to, and it's very, very funny. Nice. But yeah, Superbad, outstanding movie, and just a really funny movie. Another movie that has an all-star cast. Besides all the names I mentioned, Seth Rogen's in it, Bill Hader, and yeah, just a really funny film.
All right, I'll search that part.
I'm saving that for a little. We'll go this next. I'm assuming you've seen this one. I hope.
0 for 2 so far.
1995's Tommy.
Of course, man. Absolutely.
Okay. Richard, what's happening?
I've seen that like 20 times, 30 times.
This is like Kid Rick, probably 12 years old. When I like couldn't see R-rated movies, this was, this and like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison were my go-to, where I would rewatch them over and over and over. And this movie here, Chris Farley was such an awesome comedic actor.
Yeah.
He always brings a smile to my face watching him. And this movie is absolutely hilarious. Seeing the relationship between him and David Spade on screen, great. Dan Aykroyd as the scumbag villain. Also Rob Lowe and Bo Derek, right?
Yep.
Playing like the creepy stepmother, brother-in-law, stepbrother, stepmother. Brian Dennehy is his dad, all great. But Chris Farley and David Spade in this movie, I could sit here and quote the movie all night. 2, 4, 9er, 5, 6. Did I catch a 9er in there? We call it from a walkie-talkie. No, it's cordless.
So good.
I mean, just it's not here or here, it's right in there. No, I don't see anything. But just a movie that I can put on. RJ loves this movie too.
That's cool.
Like, holy shnikes! I mean, just a really fun movie. So Tommy Boy.
That Steelbook too is amazing.
This is an FYE
Yeah.
exclusive.
Sometime I got to upgrade to that Steelbook. It's such a great Steelbook.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's weird that they chose yellow.
Yeah.
But I guess it sticks out. Like, I almost think it should be like a blue sky behind them, because like that was kind of the original album art, was him dangling with the blue sky. But this is fun. It sticks out, and like I said, the artwork is absolutely hilarious if you've seen the movie. So next up is we'll say it's my second favorite comedy of all time. Probably one of my favorite Christmas movies. We'll use that to bait some people, because that could be an argument that I could get in with a lot of people. And it is Trading Places, from 1983, 1982. 83, the year before I was born. Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy. Movie takes place in 80s Philadelphia, so close to home, which is cool to see. And it's about Dan Aykroyd, who works on Wall Street, and the two Duke brothers who run the firm that he works for place a bet that they can take anybody off the streets and turn them into a successful Wall Street person. And they pick Eddie Murphy, who you can see in the beginning of the movie pretending he's blind, that he has Agent Orange, and he's on a cart, and he goes, "Oh, I have legs, because the cops bust him." And just a really funny movie, a movie that I quote all the time with my dad. This was one of our bonding movies from when I was way too young when I watched this for the first time. I had to cover my eyes when Jamie Lee Curtis shows her ladies in the film. I had to cover my eyes, so I would do this. Yeah, I'm not looking. Definitely can't see the screen. That, Fast Times at Ridgemont High was the same way. But this is just a movie I find super funny, and it's one I try to watch almost every Christmas. The other Christmas movie that I watch every year is Christmas Vacation, which almost was one of my 5, because that is my must-watch Christmas movie every year. I'm a Christmas Vacation diehard. I don't like A Christmas Story. I'm not a fan of that movie. So, but yeah, Trading Places. This is the only non-Steelbook in the last 5 movies, but this is the Paramount Presents edition. Ooh. So
they're putting out such great stuff, and the presentation is so good.
Yep, I love how it has the original. Oh boy, almost. I'm getting tired. You can tell I'm getting loopy. I love how it has the original poster, like, connected to the slipcover. It's always the original poster inside. But they're doing a great job just putting out all sorts of catalog titles. Even stuff like that you wouldn't expect to get Blu-ray releases have come out this year from them. So it's great to see Paramount actually putting love into the physical media market. So.
Absolutely.
And last but not least is my favorite comedy of all time. If we were recording this a week later, I would hopefully, fingers crossed, if the mail doesn't hose me, I would have this movie on 4K, because it's coming out on 4K this week as part of a box set. And that is the movie Stripes, starring Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, John Candy. It is a movie that I cannot say enough about. It is my favorite comedy movie of all time. It is in my top 5 movies of all time. Coming out on 4K in the Columbia Classics Volume 2 set, which this was the main reason I pre-ordered that set, which was $120.
Wow.
But it also has, Social Network, which is one of my favorites of the last 15 years, and Taxi Driver. So, but this movie, have you seen Stripes?
Man, I went 1 for 5 on those last 5. 1 out of 5.
Well, I still like you, John. Because when I watch your Criterion stuff and you're talking about these movies from the 50s and 60s, I was like, that sounds great, but I have never ever heard of anything he's talking about.
All right.
So, but to each their own. I definitely highly recommend all these movies, but Stripes is basically Bill Murray plays John Winger, who is a down on his luck. We don't really know his career. He's a taxi driver, I guess technically. he loses his apartment, his girlfriend, and his job all in the span of one day. Harold Ramis is his best buddy, and they decide that they're going to join the army to kind of like start fresh. And you meet the ragtag bunch of guys who join the army with them. John Candy, Judge Reinhold is in that group. John Larroquette plays like a higher up in the army too. And Warren Oates plays Sergeant Holka, who's like their gruff army instructor. And Bill Murray's character wants to have fun and try to hook up with MPs the whole movie. And it's just comedy gold because, I mean, Bill Murray, John Candy, Harold Ramis trying to join the army. You can imagine where it goes. And it's from, I want to say 81. Yeah, 81. So pre me being born, but a movie that 40 years later still holds up, and it's just absolutely hilarious. Almost the tale of two different movies too. The first half it's almost like a comedic version of Full Metal Jacket, where that's like two different movies. The first half of this movie is basically about joining and doing basic training. The second movie is about this urban assault recreational vehicle that they take, and then they have to, there's like not a battle thing, but a whole different story the second half where they have to free the rest of their army mates and whatnot. But a movie I thoroughly enjoy and think is absolutely hilarious. And I just got this Steelbook recently. Even though I had the 4K coming, the Steelbook had been on my wish list for quite some time. So I wanted to grab that.
That's awesome, man.
That is it, man.
That's awesome. Well, you named a bunch of stuff that has not happened in the first 9 episodes, not been mentioned. A lot. The vast majority. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear fresh titles. Because 9 episodes and 25 movies, that's 225 movies. So
nice. Good math. I wouldn't have got there for a second or two, but that's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for doing that. I know, I don't know about you, but I know you've got, I can see it behind you. You're doing like double layer stuff. So you've got, it's easier for me to put stuff back than it is for you. I love putting stuff back, taking it out, putting it back, but you've got a space crunch.
Yes. So my wall behind me is 4 Billy bookcases of Blu-rays only. I have 4Ks to my right and DVDs to my left, and half of my DVD shelf is now doubled where you can't even see behind it. You can kind of see, we'll do this. You can kind of see that I have stuff in front, and you can see like the top of the spine.
Yeah.
But I also have that on the top shelf all the way across. They're doubled. And then I have that shelf probably 3/4 of the way done. That shelf's full. Man. So I legit only have this shelf, and then I am out of Blu-ray space. So it's getting to a point, like I mentioned before we started recording, where I need to start watching all these movies. Like, I guarantee you, I probably have 1,000 movies on my shelf I've never seen. So I need to watch those and determine, am I keeping it? Is it a one-time watch? Is it a repeat watch? I'm always trying to upgrade DVDs I have, but now the stuff that I'm looking for is super out of print or just not on Blu-ray yet. So yeah, space is becoming very limited. I enjoy filtering everything because mine is alphabetical.
Yeah. Like
legit alphabetical, not like my buddy Joe does where he has like A's to the other B's. Mine is alphabetical. So like 4Ks are easy, and I can see those because they're doubled up, but I custom made the shelves so I can see everything behind them. Okay,
cool.
But like you can see with the DVDs, they're doubled up. Like there's my Stripes vinyl too.
There you go.
Yeah, they're doubled up. So you have to like pull stuff. So when I filter everything in, because I record videos in like chunks, I'll do like, this morning I did 4 videos. So I'll try to record a bunch of videos and I'll alphabetize everything to make sure it's logged into my app. and then like go through the overwhelming process of like, all right, time to filter everything in the shelves, and it's getting tough. It is getting full, but I don't want to stop buying. But I gotta figure something out.
I don't have a collection that size. So I have 2 bookshelves that are now filled, and I had been my nightstand. There was like a bottom cubby hole, and that was packed. And so we have another bookshelf in the corner of our bedroom, and it was just books. There's my fiction in there and some stuff on writing. And anyway, so this week I was like, I needed space. I told my wife, I was like, man, I wish we gotten a 3rd shelf. And she's like, or you could stop buying movies. And I just like blank stared at her, and it's like, I don't think that, no, that can't happen. So
nope, that is not an option. I'm sorry. I think you're mistaken. I will say I'm very lucky. My girlfriend is also an avid movie watcher, so
okay.
she's a little, she's understanding and loves that I love movies so much, and she likes it that she can just walk over to the wall, and 9 times out of 10, if she's looking for something, like we have access to a lot of streaming stuff, and I try not to watch it on streaming unless it's like Yes Day is only on streaming. So, or sometimes I'll be somewhere where I don't have a Blu-ray player or a DVD player, and I want to watch something. Streaming is nice for that, but I like to physically watch the movie, put the disc in. I love the experience of like skipping through the previews or maybe watching the previews of an old Blu-ray to see what's on there, and just going over the shelf. And then there's that, a rare occasion like for Slither, I was like, I don't own this. Like I need to get this now because I want to watch it, and it wasn't streaming. So I was like, well, I'm going on eBay. I'm buying the movie. So, but it works for a case like Slither because that'll stay on the shelf. But there's just so much stuff coming out and that's out, and so much I want to watch, but like there's only so much time in the day. Like what time is it now? Spoiler, behind the scenes, it's what, 10 something after this. I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to try to go to sleep because I got work in the morning, and hopefully squeeze in 2 or 3 movies this week. But when you're buying dozens of movies a week or a month, watching 20 movies a month, you're not really going to knock out a lot of holes. And then you talk about rewatches, and I go see stuff in theaters, and when RJ's here, it's really tough because it's like, okay, what's appropriate for 11-year-old?
Yeah.
Like I think about what I watched as an 11-year-old. I don't want him watching it. I mean, not that, anything's wrong with how I turned out, but
yeah,
I was watching stuff way too young, but it's that whole, like, especially this time of year, watching like horror films with him. How do I pick out something? I don't need the kid having nightmares.
Sure.
So like last weekend or 2 weekends ago, we watched The Village and Signs.
Okay.
So I thought those were, fairly tame, horror movies. He's seen A Quiet Place, but it's part of the adventure, like just going through the shelves and be like, what can we watch? Like what would be interesting? I've suggested stuff like, I tried to get him to watch Young Frankenstein because that's a movie I've never seen.
I've never seen it either.
A gaping hole in my, like, especially being a comedy person. Everybody's like, how have you never seen Young Frankenstein? I was like, it happens. I've seen a lot of movies, but I just haven't seen it. And I told RJ about it. He's like, yeah, no, I don't want to watch that. I was like, my dad, like his grandfather was like, he would like it. And he's like, no, I don't want to watch it. And it's like, what do you want to watch? Pick out something like, let's watch Grown Ups. No, we're not going to watch Grown Ups. We've seen Grown Ups enough.
Yeah.
If you want to watch Grown Ups, you can go in your room. You have a Blu-ray player. You can watch Grown Ups in there. But yeah, it's that whole, and then you go through phases where you just want to rewatch stuff. You want to watch like comfort movies, or if you're, doing stuff around the house, you put something on, just have in the background. But it's like, you gotta start watching all the stuff you haven't seen, because if not, you're not gonna have room for anything else.
It's true.
Like I can't go anywhere else. I got a bookshelf in my bedroom that I guess, I don't know. I don't think the girlfriend would be happy if the movies started making their way back there. They're in the living room now, and I think that's where they're going to have to stay.
Yeah, it's it can certainly be a challenge, and I agree with you. So we've got a little one, and so I can't watch anything, beyond. She's 6, so I can't watch anything beyond like G or PG. And by the time at the end of your day, you've worked all day, you get the little one to sleep, you're finally able to relax. It's 9:00 at night, and middle of the week, you throw something in at 9:00 at night. There's a decent chance I'm falling asleep.
I mean, old man Rick, I go lay back in bed at 9:00. I don't go to sleep at 9:00, but I go I like to call it decompress. I'll go on, I'll watch YouTube, I'll watch, I'll get sucked into a TikTok vortex and watch that for an hour. And I'm like, I could have watched an episode of a show that I wanted to watch. I could have watched, 2/3 of a movie. But no, I just get sucked in that because I just want to unplug. I need to decompress. And, I don't always have RJ. He lives with his mom a lot of the time. So I'm lucky in that sense where I get to, watch a lot of more adult oriented stuff without having to worry about, him hearing it or coming out and being like, what is this movie where this guy's getting his head chopped off? It's make believe. Don't worry about it. When he's here, it's kept pretty PG for the most part. And there's stuff like I showed him Happy Gilmore, which I thought was okay, but I won't show him Billy Madison yet because there's just some stuff in it that I don't think he'll fully understand, appreciate. But then he's also watched The Office. He's watched Parks and Rec.
Right.
We're watching the Goldbergs right now, which I had never seen, but it takes place in the Philadelphia area. There's so many pop culture references in it. It's probably one of my favorite shows I've watched in quite a while because of all the pop culture in jokes that are in it, plus the Philadelphia area references.
Absolutely.
But, it's that challenge of okay, what is RJ appropriate that we can watch together that, I haven't seen 1,000 times that he will sit there and watch.
Right.
I tried to show him Big Fish and he was like, why are we watching this? I was like, I guess it's a little too advanced, even though it's a PG-13 movie. There's a lot of topics in there that I don't think you fully appreciate, when you're an 11-year-old kid.
Sure. Yeah, man. It makes it hard when you're buying a lot of movies to get through them all. So, yeah. Well, man, is there anything coming up on the channel you want to let people know about? I know you have you put out a ton of content. You film a bunch. I know you said you had filmed almost a month's worth, and it was all scheduled out.
Yeah, I literally I guess it's 2 weeks ago now, I was like, oh crap, I'm out of videos. I was so spoiled where I had recorded, because I drop videos every Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday is a weekly review video. Friday is a pickup video or an unboxing video. So I try to record over a weekend where I don't have RJ and try to knock out a bunch of videos. And today I recorded 4 videos. So I have videos already uploaded for this upcoming week. I have videos for the next 2 weeks, and I'll record another chunk of videos. Upcoming videos, I have a video game movie dome haul coming. A couple cool unboxing shopping videos that I'm pretty excited about people seeing. I'm expecting my Columbia Classics box set. When that comes in, I'm going to do an unboxing, which I normally don't do for my channel. But I've seen some pictures of the set, and it just looks really cool. It looks like there's all sorts of different artwork. They all have disc artwork, which is cool to see. So I'm excited about doing that. And then something a little different. I'm a big wrestling fan, professional wrestling. And there's a company, AEW, that's the wrestling brand I watch. And they're doing a crate. Every three months, they're doing a crate with 2 T-shirts and an autographed picture, a pin. So I'm going to do an unboxing of that when that comes.
Oh, cool.
Because it was a birthday gift to myself because my birthday is next week. So
happy birthday.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I remember doing the collection battle. It was on the day of your birthday, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's right.
I got everybody to wish you happy birthday.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I was low key trying to hide it, and I was like, "Oh, it's John's birthday, everybody."
That's right. That's good.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I like the schedule of, like, I just watched your video of when you did 30 videos in 30 days and what you discovered, which I found to be very fascinating. I'm super far behind on YouTube because, once again, in addition to all the movies I want to watch, TV and work and having a girlfriend and a son, like, I have a bunch of friends on YouTube. I have a bunch of YouTube channels I like to watch. So I am months behind on everybody's videos.
I hear you.
And, you know, I watched that one. I thought it was very, very interesting and fascinating, and what gets the views. And, like, I know you mentioned your Criterion video got like over 2,000 views, and just how the algorithm works on YouTube. And, you know, I've decided, like, Tuesdays and Fridays, it's spaced out enough. When I drop a pickup video on Friday, it gives it the whole weekend for people to check it out into their Monday. So that's what I've been doing. And I pop in, like, bonus videos. Like, when a studio sends me something, I'll do like a bonus video. But for the foreseeable future, videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'll be talking about my favorite movie of 2021 in a couple weeks in a review video. And it's a movie that hardly anybody has seen or heard of. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Cool.
Try to get some buzz out about a movie. I'll spoil it here. It's called Blue Bayou. So lots of people have no idea what it is when I mention it by name, but it was outstanding. So I actually pre-ordered it on Blu-ray because I was like, I need to own this and rewatch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there like a trailer out and all that kind of stuff?
Yep. It was in a limited amount of theaters. Written, directed, produced, and starring a guy named Justin Choi, who apparently was in the Twilight movies. Had never seen those. And Alicia Vikander, and it's about immigration in this country. And he's a Korean American. He was born in Korea but moved to America when he was 3. And then, like, 30 some years later, they tried to deport him.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that. But another movie that it ended and I had all sorts of stuff in my eyes. So, but yeah, like I said, not a lot of people are even familiar with it, and I cannot praise the movie enough. Definitely, if it's playing near you, check it out. Or like, I ordered it off Groove because Groove does like their 20% off deal and free shipping. So I just pre-ordered that along with one other title to get the 20% off. And whenever it comes out, I assume it'll be out in November, most likely.
That's very cool, man. I'll have to look into that. That's what, after these conversations, I usually go home, eat, and then lay there and watch all the trailers of all the movies that were recommended to me. So
this way you can kind of like process, like, oh, that looks really good, or like, nah, I don't think that's
exactly what I do. Yeah, I pull stuff from the list if after I watch the trailer or do a little reading on it. But yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks so much, Rick. I really appreciate this. You taking the time, and thanks for all the content you put out. And I know it's been 1.5 years, but again, thanks so much, man, for being a good friend on here and being an encouragement for a new person to join the club. So,
no, I mean, we keep missing each other. Like, you're in an area where my girlfriend's family is not too far from, but like when we go there, it's always like a busy weekend. Like, constantly, I'm like, you and I are going to meet up at some point. You drive all the way out to Pam's, which is like an hour from me, but it's much longer for you. So I hope that we can meet, in person and do some hunting together at some
that'd
point.
Be fun.
But, I'm glad that you're still doing videos. I try to watch them as much as I can. I still far behind, but, I just love the personality you show in your videos. The Larry Bird parody video you did, I was like, this guy has sense of humor. He has personality, and it shines through in your videos. And, like, I always joke around with you that you talk about classics, but it's cool to see, like, you saying you just watched Back to the Future for the first time last night, that you're like, you're just like checking out all these movies that, you know, I've never seen, or stuff that I've seen that I'm like, how have you never seen this before? But it's just, you know, it's this awesome community that we're a part of that, you know, I try to stay away from the toxic part of the community, but I've just made such really good friends in the community and people I just like to chat with and talk movies and see how everything's going and make sure they're doing good and that life is going well for them, and just, you know, trying to support them. If they need help, if they want advice, I can give it. If they just want to complain about something, if they want to talk about movies, I'm here. And, you know, I'm going to continue to keep doing the YouTube. I'm going to keep doing the Instagram and having fun.
Cool, man. Well, it is a great community. And even today, this afternoon, I spent time on Instagram just talking with people in this community and just about life stuff. It had nothing to do with movies. It was just what's going on in life. And so it is that. And I did mention that to Joe. I thought it was a little far-fetched when I was hearing people in this community talk about, I've made some of my best friends on YouTube. And I was like, that's not possible. And I've just met some of the coolest people who are genuinely kind, caring, thoughtful people. And my wife teases me because I'll say, she's like, what are you doing? Because I'll be leaving the house to come to my office. And I was like, you know, I got a conversation. I'm talking to Stephanie tonight, or I'm talking to Rick, or I'm talking to whoever. And she's like, who's that? And I forget that it's not part of her world. It's all in my world on YouTube. And so we have a good laugh about that. So she's like, oh, you're internet friends? Yeah, I'm internet friends.
Oh, you're friends on the YouTube. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, well, cool, man. Thanks. I won't keep you because it is now 11:07. And
way past my bedtime, but I'm glad I got to do it. I'm glad, you know, thank you for inviting me to do it. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely think it's a series that people should check out. And I'm going to obviously promote it when it's dropping on my channel, and you guys should subscribe. Well, you're watching this on John's channel, but subscribe if you don't do so already. John puts out great content, and he's just an awesome guy. So
cool, man.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for doing it, man. I appreciate it. I'm going to go eat cereal now is what I'm going to do.
Nice. Big night.
What's that?
I'm ready to go to sleep. I said big night. I'm ready to literally go right to bed probably.
I'm a worse sleeper. So I woke up at 3 a.m. I've been awake since 3 a.m. And I woke up and I watched Chappelle's new special. That's what I did at 3 a.m. and then got up at 5.
Today?
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Nice.
Cool, man. Well, thanks again, Rick. I hope you have a great night and a great week.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Man.
Cool. Take care.
Well, friends, thank you so much for checking out this episode number 10 of the 5. We've got 10. I can't believe we're 10 in. I already have plans. I mostly have it crafted out for the next 10 conversations. So we might take a short break between the first and second series of 10. But series number 2, 10 more episodes. They're on the way. They're coming. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Again, friends, down below will be all the information for Rick, Down to Movie, for Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe, follow. Such a cool guy. Amazing content. And I watch his content all the time. So friends, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming along this journey. If you've been here for all 10 conversations, well done. If we get a punch card, you get a free something. I don't know. Free congratulations, or maybe a movie or something. Maybe we'll make punch cards. I don't know, probably not. But thank you so much. If you've been here for all 10 of these, that's really impressive. Friends, thanks so much for checking out this episode. I really do appreciate it. If you liked it, please hit like if you'd like to, and subscribe if you do want more of this kind of content. I so appreciate you checking out this video. Thank you so much. Please do take care of yourself, and we will see you next time.